You're listening to a DM podcast.
Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world, and have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Nicola, it's funny, when you go to a gym or a Pilates class or even the physio really, or a chiro, and there's mirrors everywhere, and you're usually in uncompromising positions with whatever you're doing, right? And I went to a Pilates class with 2 others, and I remember doing something, and it was obviously on a reformer that was very close to a big mirror that I call the fattening mirror, but it was a reality check, because as I was leaning down on my arm, I went, oh my God, everyone went, what's wrong? I went, I must be old. Look at my arm. There was all these wrinkles on my arm. And I went, because I had the pressure on it, right, hanging down. And I went, I didn't realise that I was old.
Where's the iron? Where's the steamer?
I'm just...
it's cruel sometimes, isn't it?
You know what? I actually thought of you, because I thought, we don't think about age. We don't think of age.
No, not at all.
We are so driven by joy and happiness, and, this is a whole new beginning, late 50s, early 60s. And it was like such a shock in that moment. It was a pivotal moment of... and I said it really loud, I must be old. And it was just like, where did that
What
come
did everyone
from?
else in the gym
Everyone was rolling. They fell off reformers and everything. But I was being honest. I vocalised what I felt. And I was like, whoa. And then the Pilates teacher said, I've been teaching for so long, I've never heard anyone say that.
But Di, that is such a good point, because you sometimes you feel like you're 25, and I've had the same thing. When I've gone down, I've done the stretches, then I've looked at my legs, and I'm going, oh, they're not really smooth anymore. How did that happen? Or you take your legs up and you go, and you do
overnight.
You get a shock, because you sort of think, how did that happen? Or when I actually had to have a little X-ray, and then they said there's a little bit of osteoporosis. I said, how can that happen?
No, that can't be there. That's the wrong client.
That's the wrong person. But you know what? We share the same thing. You've got to have a laugh with it. But it's reality, sometimes.
It's not denial.
It's not
is
denial.
It's not denial. It's more about, I think we're bumbling along in this really happy state that sometimes something like your legs or my arm will trigger. Yeah. I must be old.
Maybe they can do Botox for the arms.
Now you're talking.
For the legs,
okay,
or
let's
something
Google
like
that immediately. So that's,
too funny.
I just thought I'd just throw that into our intro, because we are doing a podcast centred around a certain age group. And, they say life is but a number, but I believe I change it to life is but an attitude.
I agree. Here, an attitude, and gratitude.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes that they say that can be a little bit corny, but I actually truly believe that. It is it's the looking at things positively, things you can't change, then, just roll with it and deal with it. And you can't, some things that have happened, you've just sort of think, well, that's experience, and acknowledge the hurt, acknowledge how you feel at that time, but then go, it's a brand new day.
Yeah.
And that's your attitude.
Sound like your father.
It's a brand new day. And this is a brand new...
What is it? Wake up and set the world on fire.
Don't you love that?
Yeah.
Wake up early, set the
If you can say that every day, wake up and set the world on fire.
Yeah.
One of our clients
and a
said
brand
recently.
new day, and a brand new friend that we've made.
Yes.
So who have we got?
We have... No, it's Grover.
Yes, it is.
She was calling you Groover.
She's groovy.
Think Sesame Street.
The glasses go on. Hello. So we have Jane Grover with us today. We started our podcast with an intention to motivate and inspire others, and of course have a laugh along the way. Well, our next guest, Jane Grover, is a shining example of this. Jane is an author of 2 amazing cookbooks, which we have on the table here. One, Naked Food, and Our Delicious Adventure. I love that one, just the name in itself. She's adventurous, offers her time to charity, a mother of 3, a chef turned home cook, wife, and is passionate about simple, healthy cooking, hence The Naked Food Book. Jane certainly puts her money where her mouth is, with cooking classes in her home and garden, and of course over the back fence conversations with an afternoon tea with the author. So let's chat with Jane.
Yay.
Welcome.
Thank you, ladies. It's so fun to be here.
Yeah, it's great.
Jane, I love it that with storytelling, and it's sort of like telling a little story with us, with our friendship, because we met playing golf.
Yes.
And here we are at this next stage of our life.
Yeah.
For me, it was learning something new.
Yeah.
And getting friends. So what fun that we've
That was
we've met
great.
sort of through golf. And,
absolutely.
Was that when you first started to learn golf?
Yeah,
Or
so
what?
when we moved to Palm Beach, actually, I was just walking past the golf course every day and thinking, maybe I should be
incredible.
learning something new. I had played a little bit of golf with my family as growing up because my father and brothers played golf, and my father very patiently let us go around the course with him, and I don't know how he did it, divots, sand buckets on steroids, constantly calling people through while we're looking for balls. But so I've always been a bit sporty, and I thought, well, I'll give that a go, and I've just loved it.
And then friendship community, then we found out that,
Yes.
Jane's just round in the hood from us too.
Yeah.
And then with what you do. So how did you get started with your love of food? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, my mum was an amazing cook, and we always had, the family table was huge, so we were always round the table, loving our food. And when I was at school, I was actually good at two things, sport and talking. That was about it. Unfortunately, the talking thing didn't really, in sort of make my education.
It's good.
I spent a lot of time out of the classroom, let's just say.
One of us.
And,
You're perfect for a podcast.
That's it. Who will listen here? I'm not sure. And when I was finishing school, I was like, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, I'd like to be a PE teacher. But I'd started coaching tennis as a side hustle, and it's a terrible thing to say, but the uncoordinated children just did my head in, and I thought, do I really want to be a PE teacher? Because most kids at PE at school don't want to be there, And so I was like, what else do I enjoy and am I into? And it was food. It was like, that is something that I'd like to explore more. And fortunately, over the back fence, we actually had, our neighbour was running a catering company and helped me get into an apprenticeship. Another head chef of the Australian club at the time I was babysitting for, and he helped me as well. And off I went, and I was really grateful.
Divine intervention, love that.
And so grateful that my parents were just open-minded about, like, the girl from the North Shore who's been to the private school can go into the commercial kitchens, do an apprenticeship, do a
Fabulous.
trade. It was amazing.
Love it.
Amazing. And so that's where it all started. I did an apprenticeship, worked at a couple of beautiful fine dining restaurants in Sydney, and then worked as a chef for another 5 years before I met my love and started having babies.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
I love
You
that.
speak so warmly
yeah,
to your husband too.
It's that's
music to our ears
beautiful.
too.
He's
It's not
my
always that
best
way.
friend.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
So it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Sadly, it's a bit rare these days.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Did
Yeah.
kids waylay you? Like you said, you were a chef for 5
Yeah.
years. Then you met your beautiful husband.
Yeah.
And had 3 children. Did you sort of pull back during that time?
Yeah, that's a
Right.
really good question, Di, because it's always a choice, I think, at that
It
point,
is.
isn't it, as a
Absolutely.
woman?
Yeah.
And I think the other great desire in my heart was always to be a mum, because I had
Beautiful.
such a wonderful mum. And
Wow.
so
That's so beautiful.
it was a setting aside of something, because I loved cooking and chefing, and it's a bit like the fashion music industry. It's just, a climb up to greatness, really. So I did sort of need to say, well, can I put that aside? And I did. And for probably about 10 years, I put that aside while I had our 3 children.
Wow. I love that conscious
Conscious
It was a
when they
conscious
say
choice,
having it
yeah.
all,
to do that.
That was your priority,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah.
And also
yeah.
a mum and her wings, seen her mother, how she read.
That's
how
right.
many siblings?
So my mum had 4 children.
Okay,
and
so 4.
She had
which
been a
was that?
stay-at-home mum,
Right.
which was probably
And you
more
wanted that for
accepted.
your children.
I did. I wanted
beautiful.
that
It's
input
gorgeous.
into them. Yeah, and then
And then
look,
you went mad and went, I need to do something
Well,
else.
funnily enough, that
Sorry
husband.
about to the 3rd child. But
Funnily enough, about that husband that I love. After my third child went to school, I actually started working.
timing.
I started working with my husband, and that was probably not the greatest choice.
No.
It was a pretty boring data entry, accounts payable.
Yeah.
Thank you, Di. Position. And we were doing, we were doing
No,
more.
not at all.
We were doing more arguing than loving at that point. And so I said to him one day, I said, can you resign? Can you resign from working for your husband? Yes, you can. And I am.
Good for you,
Yeah.
too.
So I
That's
did.
good,
Another
isn't it?
conscious decision.
Yes.
Save the marriage.
Yes.
Resign.
Brilliant.
Resign
Where
the
am I going now?
Yeah, resign the job rather than the husband. And
Yeah,
so,
love that.
Smart move.
Yeah. And then, amazingly, look, my parents were super generous people, and I always saw them helping other people. And so, you know, at that
Beautiful.
point, there was a family in our lives whose daughter had had a diagnosis of leukemia very early on. She was 19. It was just tragic. And I was like, what can I do to help them? You know, I didn't have an abundance of money sitting around to give them, but I thought I can use what I've got in my hand. And so myself and another lady, we did a cooking show at this lady's beautiful home, and we ticketed it, and we raised all this money for this family. It was the first cooking show I'd ever done, and I just sort of winged it. But at the end of it, I was like, I was made to do this.
Love that.
This
What a
is
great
what-
what a
yeah.
great recognition.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
truly.
So
And
between
by
my
giving-
talking,
Yes, but by giving, you also found your passion.
yeah, that's right. That's
Which
right.
is a gift back to yourself.
Yeah, and it was a combination of my cooking, my communicating.
And you can talk.
And my, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Finally, the
exactly.
talking was getting a roll.
I knew we had to have Jane on.
And also as a parent, and just thinking about what you put in your body food-wise and stuff. So I started a cooking school from like maybe a couple of weeks later. It was
A
just
cooking
like,
school.
Yeah.
And
So
how
that
did-
was the first
Tell
step.
us about that.
Yeah.
Well, that was very simple. I just started in my, we were living in Narrabeen at the time, and I just started in my home kitchen.
You were a real
Very-
goer, aren't
Put-
you, too?
Yeah, got a
It's
little
wonderful.
website up and just word of mouth, and just I ran classes for 2 years. They were fully booked out, and actually had a couple of clients that just kept coming and saying, you should write a cookbook, you should write a cookbook. And honestly, I mean, look, you know, the journey so far, there was no business plan to write a cookbook.
No.
But because I'd run these classes for, 2 years, and I had all these tested recipes, and I was like, well, how hard can it be?
The actual cooking school, was
Yeah.
it centred around, I mean, the book's called Naked Food,
Yeah.
Healthy Food,
Yeah.
whole foods, or was
Yeah.
it more complex sort of recipes
Yeah,
that
sure.
you were?
Well, it was
I
a
mean,
bit of both.
Like, I'm trying to work the timeline how you ended up going down the Whole Foods
Yes.
healthy road.
Okay.
From the
So that
cooking
was
school.
Dinner parties.
Yeah, so I'm thinking
Yeah.
cooking school, I'm
dinner
thinking
parties
lots of
and
butter.
soufflés.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's a great question, because it's fine. Where do you go from
Yeah,
fine
fine
dining to
dining,
Whole Foods?
yeah,
And
which
very
you were
different.
trained in.
Very different. So
Yeah.
that was really a bit of an epiphany for me around the time I turned 40.
Interesting.
I actually read a couple of books that were really getting me triggered to think about what I was putting in my body rather than what I looked like on the outside. And one book in particular, which is by a Queensland nutritionist, Changing Habits, Changing Lives, by Cindy O'Meara, was a big game changer for me. And it was just making really simple changes. Like, so, without condemning the listeners, things like soft drink being a bit of a dead food for your body, and highly processed foods, and looking more at where the food actually came from in its whole form, where it came from, not just as the food, but where, like the farmer and the origin of that, and how was it grown, and the nutritional level of that. And I just got pretty obsessed by that idea of going back really to how our grandmothers used to cook. And that's how my grandmother cooked, and that's how my mother cooked. And it was just about not healthy food in the sense of, oh my gosh, no shaving of your underarms and lentil pie and broccoli soup all the time. No, it was actually about...
That's right, because it's not, people sometimes have that perception that you have to sort of be a real hippie to like this sort of food.
Yeah, so the cooking school and Naked Food was actually more about empowering people to cook again, and
Number
to
one.
think,
Yeah.
what were they working with, to cook from scratch. And I suppose the byline really was to make food, healthy food, taste good. So simple recipes that were healthy but also tasted good, because those things weren't really together. There was either complex recipes that were not enjoyable to eat but I feel healthy, or like complex recipes that were not that good for me, but they taste great.
Yeah.
So
But
what did you
how
come
can
up
we-
with?
So,
Like, what's
so
an
I just
example
tried to go with things like, like a beef and bean nachos that people were already eating, but instead of using a packet highly processed,
I love this.
I made a spice mix and showed people how to cook that from scratch.
Simple,
Even
quick.
like a chicken and leek pie, like making your own
See,
really
that
quick.
scares me. I go, my brain, honestly, Jane.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love to cook when I've got time, which is very
Yeah.
rare, maybe once a year. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
And then where do you order it
my
from?
kids would disagree with that. They
I
like
use
a
which
few.
you get.
But I just think pie, I think, pastry, cream sauce, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
instantly start moving
So how
away
do you,
from
what's
it.
a quick sort of
Yeah.
thing?
How
of
do you do a
yeah,
quick chicken and leg pie, for God's
simply?
sake?
Well, the thing is that, cooking is a lot about preparation.
Yeah.
So you can't sort of come home at 7 and
No.
decide, what will I have now?
Yeah.
That's when you get on the phone. But so it's a little, there's preparation involved in it, but there's also just reducing the amount of ingredients you put in. So chicken and leek pie is literally like chopping up a bit of leek, onion, some chicken thigh, which is better than chicken breast if you're going to cook it.
Tastier.
Just, colouring that in a pan, and then you've got some chicken stock and adding that, and then using flour and butter as a roux, as a
Yep.
thickening agent,
Yep.
and you end up with like a creamy
Got
sauce.
it.
Throw in a bit of
That sounds
seasoning.
easy. Yes.
And then the good thing is you pop
Have I
them.
bought the pastry?
So you pop them in little like ramekins,
But
so
I've
you
bought the
only got a
pastry,
pastry
haven't I?
top.
How
So
good's
you can
that?
go one or
Okay.
two. You
That
can
makes
buy
it
the pastry,
easier.
Or you can make
or
it,
you can
yeah.
literally make pastry in your food process
I know, that
in 10
terrifies
minutes.
me.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I don't think I will do that yet.
So
I
our
haven't
next-
got a preference.
so I'm
Nicola
feeling
and I go-
I'm onto that exactly,
I'm
just with a
loving
bit of
buying, so
pastry on
defrosted
top.
the
Okay, well, I'm
pastry.
feeling like we might have to have a session
Yep,
in my
we do.
kitchen.
I
We
think
do.
so.
Yeah, I think
Seriously.
so.
And champagne.
We're going to get rid of
Champagne.
Chicken and leek and
Rid of the
champagne.
fear.
Fine
I'm
to
loving
me.
it.
rid of the fear. I was actually on Justine Schofield's Everyday Gourmet show on Channel 10 a few years ago, and I did the chicken and leek pie. So if you
Did you make the pastry on,
Yeah.
on it?
It's
Yeah.
a day.
Yeah.
What we
Yeah.
have to do is play a bit of
I've
golf.
got to get
That's
rid of
right,
it.
we'll
and
play
then
Get
we're
rid
going
of
to
my
come
fear
around,
of
and then we're
pastry.
going to pop the champagne, and then we'll
Yes.
learn from you.
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
diary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I'm just
done.
wondering, should we get you guys to do something before we pop the champagne? I'm just not.
I think so.
I'm sort of
Do you
feeling
know
like,
what?
yeah.
I think you need to give us the
chicken
prep.
and leek slop pie or something like that.
you
We'll put
do.
champagne in it.
No, but you know what? I want to empower
Make it
you.
Tony.
I want to empower you to feel better about you. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
cookbooks, you look at the picture and you look at what you've made, like Di said, her
Yeah.
slop,
Yeah.
and then you're just discouraged. But
Yes.
but if the recipe works, you can do it just as
Jane,
good
that
as
is
me.
so true,
Yeah,
feeling
it's
empowered. Because I have to
confidence,
say,
isn't it?
sometimes I
Yeah.
feel nervous, and it's in front of
Yeah.
new people. I'll go, oh,
Yeah.
look, I won't cook that because I don't really know. It mightn't work out. So
Yeah.
it's probably easier if
Yeah.
I do something else
Yeah.
that I really know. Or,
That is
or,
so
Or
true.
I'll order that in and I'll pretend I did it.
I always say to people, when you're entertaining, cook something.
Give me a hard time.
done once
Go,
before.
girl.
Yeah.
I think I trained you.
But that's right.
No,
cook something
but
that you
really-
know.
Yeah.
Cook something you know, because people
Yeah.
will love that.
Well, I'm a dessert girl too. Are there any simple
yes.
desserts?
Yeah.
You're great at desserts.
Yes.
Kangaroo hops.
Yeah,
used
that's
to
what I
always
do.
make.
Cook.
Nicola
That's my
showed up
place.
to
No
any party
food,
with kangaroo
champagne,
hops.
but there'll be a dessert.
Yeah.
Kangaroo hops used to make.
Oh, I used to have dark chocolate chip in it, and there was nuts and a whole mixed plethora of
Yes.
things
Beautiful.
too.
And she'd bring them on a
And
little
coconut
plate.
and-
Melbourne
Oh,
Gold,
nice.
and
beautiful
a thick,
plate with
thick
the
chocolate sort of
Oh, it'd be
sauce
like
and like.
family of 8. And here,
No, a
Maybe you can bring
presentation,
those for our
presentation.
cooking,
Okay, I'll
get
do
together.
that.
In Naked Food, I actually tell the stories of, about a dozen farmers that I went to their farm, stayed with them, watched what they were doing, chatted with them, cooked with them, and I've built a myriad of relationships with them now. And like, for instance, an example is I buy all my olive oil, all my olives and my dried figs and a lot of my wine from a organic farm out Canowindra way, which is out Cowra Orange way. And I just
obviously you don't drive to get the
no, I
groceries.
just order it
Yes.
order
So
it
if they
online,
bring it, they
online,
deliver
or
it.
I give him a call.
So
and
direct from the farm is what
direct
you're
from the
saying.
farm,
Love that.
direct from the farm.
No middleman.
Yeah, no middleman. And look,
Okay.
when you mentioned about butter and flour,
Yeah.
hey, there's nothing wrong with butter and flour.
Okay,
there
hit me
is
with
something
that.
wrong with
But
margarine.
you know, in our society,
Well, flour and gluten and, there's
Yeah.
sort of
almond
it comes with a bit
meat.
of stigma
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah,
doesn't
It
yeah.
does.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just what's happened is that we've started thinking more about calories than nutrition. We've started thinking more about calories than enjoying our food. We're guilty about eating something delicious, and that in itself is not great for us going forward, because I don't want to live my life eating rigidly and eating specifically so that I can get to the end of my life and say, well, I was a good girl. I want to enjoy my food. I want to.
Jane, you're refreshing.
You really are.
We
And
need more Janes in the world. No, truly.
yeah,
I mean that.
we really do, because it's
Yeah.
actually sort of like then enjoying the moment, enjoying
Yeah.
it and sharing it with
That's
people,
right.
and you're loving having that good food there.
Yeah. You know, like if I go to a farm and I walk in and the lady has baked scones, because on the land, the rule is that when you see people walking from the driveway, you put the scones in the oven then, right? The driveway is a 10-minute walk. The scones take 15 minutes to cook. Out they come, you sit down, have warm scones. She's got the homemade jam. She's whipped a little bit of cream direct from the cow. Am I going to say, oh, look, sorry, that's not within the confines of
I'm
my...
gluten-free, I'm this
I'm gluten-free,
free, I'm that free, I'm flour-free,
I only eat upside down on
I'm
Tuesdays.
food-free.
Like, I don't know.
Yes, I love hearing this too.
So I go
A little
like...
bit in
I'm going to have an
moderation.
experience with this woman right now, because we're going to gel together on her homemade, cooking from scratch, beautiful thing. We're going to converse. We're going to chat. We're going to make a moment here.
It's a community.
Oh,
it's community.
making moments.
Make a moment.
isn't
I
it?
love that.
And food is about moments.
It's so
Food
true,
is-
and sharing.
Food is about moments. It's
Yeah.
not about guilt. It's not about getting hung up on, legitimately some people have medical issues that they have to
Sure.
adhere by. And we're
Yeah.
not dissing that
No.
by any means
No,
at all.
not at all.
Of course not.
But we're talking a general sense.
But if you are
yes.
just like jumping all over the place
Yeah.
with the new diet and the new fad and the new thing, it's like fashion. It's never going to end.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
never going to
Wow.
end. There's always going to be the new shoes to wear or the new bag to have. Dieting is the same. So I don't talk about dieting. I talk about lifestyle. I talk about how can you have a healthier lifestyle by thinking about what you put in your body, but by enjoying your food as well, and
valuing.
valuing.
Yeah, as you said, whole foods. It's
Yeah,
something that you-
yeah.
And how did you get
Talk about.
from, you've got a love of travel, and then you
Yes.
combine
This
travel
one.
into
Our
food.
delicious adventure.
So tell us about that, some
So
of your adventures
exciting.
in travel and how you put
Yeah,
that together.
okay. Well, look, part of the travel started with Writing Naked Food, because I really wanted to get out there and meet the farmers and stuff. So it was sort of started off with regional travel. And then honestly, look, Writing Naked Food, it was such a ride. And when I got to the end of it, and then, as people say, writing a book is one thing, selling it, whole different cup of tea. And I was just done. After a year and a half of, it was 3 years by the time I wrote the book, published it, and flogged it to death to get my money back.
Love that, honesty.
Yes. Yeah.
I was done. And so my husband and I decided, we're both self-employed, and so we decided to take 3 months off. And how do you do that? Well, you sacrifice. You don't just take 3 months off and stay in 5-star hotels. So we took 3 months off and we road tripped across the bottom of Australia with our boat and our tent. We did also take our 15-year-old with us.
I was
who
going
was
to say,
a
was
little-
it just the two of you?
Yeah, so
or-
with our 15-year-old, our older two had just finished school and they were happy not to come. Our 15-year-old.
See ya.
Our 15-year-old came on the School of Life, and he will tell you now, he's now 24 and married, he will tell you now that he has no regrets about the School of Life.
Lovely.
I love the school
So he
of
was there for the
life.
full 3 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so our delicious adventure came out of that trip, because one of the things for me with that trip was I needed to renew my creativity with cooking, with what I was seeing, with the produce I was exposed to. And so we travelled, we camped, we fished, we ate lobsters and squids and things we caught ourselves. We visited farm gates, got all our food, went to farmers markets, and over that period we just basically lived this simple life out of the boot of our four-wheel drive and a tiny camping fridge. But everything I was cooking was no recipes, just what can I make with this? And Our Delicious Adventure came out of that trip, and that book is actually the story of that trip with some of my travel photography, and then I worked with the same food team to put all those recipes into a book. Yeah. So
What are we talking? Lizard soup?
Oh no, no.
Outback here.
Oh,
What-
you know,
what are we
we're talking like blue swimmer crab and
Yum.
damper
excuse me,
and
we're coming up in the blue swimmer.
And would
crab,
you
my
share the
favourite.
cooking?
Yeah.
Or were you the queen of the cooking?
No, I was the queen of the cooking. Paul was king of the catching.
I was-
Okay,
oh,
king of
I
the
love
catching.
that.
He was king of the catching.
What about your
and
son?
Jake, who we call the adventurer, he was king of the adventures. He was pushing us beyond our limits. We can climb that hill.
How
Of course we can.
fabulous.
I'm running up it. What are you guys doing?
I think you are. Oh, come on, we're going
What a
now.
life adventure. Did you have other kids come and join you at
The
any
other kids
stage?
came over halfway through to
Wow.
Perth,
Beautiful.
and our older son stayed with us for 2 weeks, and our daughter was fully converted and came home with us in the car.
Oh my
She rang
gosh.
Sydney and put her job on hold. She was at uni and she was only working a part-time job, so she just rang them and said, could I have 6 weeks leave? I've got an opportunity I'm not going to get again. And it birthed in all of us a love to just go. And if the
What was your
opportunity
what was your
presents,
favourite? How should we say favourite moment on that? Because that I don't know about Nicola, but if I know Nicola like I do, are you on the journey with?
I'm
like
there.
I'm in the car, I'm at the the farm gate,
Yeah.
all of that. But there's got to be one, but I know there'll be many.
Yeah.
One that stands out for
I
the
think
listeners?
like the bottom corner of Western Australia was just
Okay, bottom corner of
incredible.
West Australia.
We're talking Esperance, Albany,
Okay, yep,
up all the way
Albany,
up
yep.
to the Margaret River.
Okay.
Just incredible landscape and no one there because everyone's a Bali. You know, so
And I know what I love. Here's you got your daughter who you sort of think university. The last thing she probably wouldn't do is hang out with her folks and do this sort of like roadie trip. You'd go to Bali, but
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
she's just skipped
Yeah.
all that
she's
to hang
learning,
out. And
isn't she?
I
what
know,
a
but we're
great
cool
thing.
parents.
It's so
We're cool
beautiful. I know. You certainly are.
And your son
they'll
stuck
be
it
good.
out for the 3 months. God
absolutely.
bless
It's
him.
just, I know.
But
it's
even for our
wonderful. You're
son,
cre-
it was
creating that.
amazing because he was going into year 11. So we knew he could miss. Well, he's going to year 10. We knew he could miss a month of school, and the following year he went into year 11 and he met this girl at school who's now his wife.
That's beautiful.
So we would never have had that opportunity
It's like
with
a
our
grounding
son.
moment for
Again,
him.
it was this window of time, and I think we sort of looked at it and said, you know, a lot of people wait till they retire. A lot of people wait till all the ducks in a row, till they're financially secure.
Yeah.
But you know, as we know, sort of diagnoses come, divorces come, financial hardship comes, and then you spend the rest of your life thinking, that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't do it.
And you live in regret. And
Yeah.
it's one of the lines I love is expectation is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of
Yeah.
people live and are birthed and then die wishing and hoping
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
possibility of
Yeah.
and it never does. And you guys, off we go.
Yeah.
And you're continuously creating it.
Yeah.
I
And
love
also,
this.
wasn't there? What was the quote that your dad? I think I was in one of the books I read. Something your dad said about two paths. Is there?
There's a quote in
that
there.
love
It was
this?
actually my English teacher that said that. It's a Robert Frost, I think, quote, and it's about how two paths diverge. When you're coming down through the woods and there's two paths, go out, and I've chosen the one less travelled.
Oh, how
And
good's that?
I think that's been our life. We've really just swum upstream our whole lives. Like, you know, when everybody else is sort of, you know, working full time and killing themselves, I'm a stay-at-home mum. You know, when everyone else is eating McDonald's and stressing and rushing and ordering takeaway, I'm home cooking from scratch. You know, and when everyone else is like thinking, well, we'll be grey nomads, we go, let's give up our jobs for 3 months and do it now. It's just we've always sort of just gone the road less travelled because life's one chance.
Oh, Jane.
And also you felt like you needed to.
Beautiful.
That was
you were
it.
really in
That was it.
tune with
Yeah.
what, where you were at
Yeah.
in your lives,
Yeah.
and B, like you could sense it.
Yeah.
Like you made possible a sense of adventure.
Yeah, that's right.
And
That's right.
so you listen to where a lot of us override that.
Yeah.
And
So
you
the
listen.
smile
But
on your
can I
face
just
is
say,
nice.
as we
Please.
drove out of the driveway, we literally actually just like sort of semi-wet our pants about what are we doing?
Throwing caution to the wind.
That happens more these days, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Take a breath.
What are we doing?
But
Love
I think
that.
the thing was that we'd never really taken a holiday for more than 2 weeks, and so when we went away for like 79 days, and so it was like after
From one extreme to the other.
After 14 days, we were like, we don't have to go back. And I think that was like a key was no schedule, and every day was a new adventure.
Oh. And
no
it's freedom.
schedule.
You're actually living
No
ultimate
schedule.
freedom.
I
Actually,
can't.
read the-
You don't need a hairbrush if you do it, people. Nobody will see you.
Were you Jane, were you a little bit of Rastafariing hair?
Yeah.
Like-
Actually, funny story. When we came back to Sydney and my son had to go back to school, and we had to go to a parent-teacher thing, and we rocked up to school, and I'd just been at the beach because I was still in denial about getting back into reality.
Wow.
And I'm in my cosy and a throwover, and we're in the school car park, and I said to Jake, I'm just going to get changed before we go into the parent-teacher interview. And he just looks at me and goes, Mum, please don't get changed in the car or out of the car. Go and use the change room. He was horrified that the school community might be seeing things that only are meant for the outback.
Jane, you know what you are? You're just a walking balanced human being, because Nicola and I, driving here today, were talking about your association with a charity in Uganda.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. And so I'm talking about balance, where a lot of people are out of balance, because I believe in giving, and Nicola is the most generous human being on this earth.
Wow.
By giving, you receive, and
Yeah.
you don't do it for that reason.
No.
So tell us how you became associated with
Sure,
Uganda and
yeah.
B, this particular charity.
Well, so with my business, when I went into the second stage of my cooking life, which was the cooking school, which led to the cookbooks and led to me doing a lot of live cooking shows and events in big spaces, right? And health and wellness expos, corporate spaces, school spaces. But you know, the day COVID hit, my whole business went down the drain because I couldn't do anything that I was doing before. I couldn't have people into my home, corporate schools, events were done, and I was sitting there just going, right, what now? And I must admit, I'd been doing it for 10 years. It wasn't like I was devastated. I was like a little bit like, ooh, there's an excuse not to do anything. But at the time, there was this lovely lady, Alice Achan, who is from northern Uganda, and she had started a work many years before in the early 2000s, which I had connection with through the church that I go to. And Alice came out to Sydney to launch a book that another colleague of mine had written about her life called The School of Restoration. And in a nutshell, it's a work that empowers young girls to be educated and offer maternal health for them, because in their culture, once they are with child, they're no longer deemed worthy of educating. And so it's a long story, and you should read it, but very confronting on what these girls have had to endure. So Alice came out to Sydney to launch the book with Philippa in March 2020, and 10 days after she arrived, COVID happened. And so the launch and everything was closed. It'd be like you guys setting up your whole podcast thing and then, bam, it can't happen. And she stayed for a couple of weeks, and then we thought we better get out of here because, as you know, the world was closing down, and we tried to get her on a plane to get back home. And I'd just been involved with Philippa because of my experience with books. I was just helping them a little bit with the launch, and the day before she was supposed to fly home, Uganda closed their borders and she couldn't leave.
Wow.
And she ended up being stuck in Sydney for 7 months.
7 months.
Now, in that time, she stayed with a couple of people who looked after her, but both of them were working full-time. And so she had all these days to spare. Well, funnily enough, I had all these days to spare.
Wow.
And so I just put my hand up and said, I'll look after Alice. And I would take
Sounds like
her.
a book.
Alice. I know. I'll look after
So
Alice.
I would take
This was
Alice
meant
to
be.
my place and we'd cook together. I'd take her up to Barrenjoey Lighthouse and show her, the peninsula. She loved the bush because she was missing home. I'd take her to a supermarket where they sold African stuff way out west, and just tried to look after her a bit in between, and because it was an anxious time for her. Her work is sitting over there in Uganda, her family's over there, and she can't get home, and no one in the world has seen this before. And so out of that really came when we got her home in August. Philippa, who wrote the book, approached me and a couple of others and said, we've formed a team in this time, let's really
Go COVID.
let's
How
go
these are
forward.
the positive stories.
Yeah. And so my work with the charity has just increased since then. And I am on the board of directors of the charity in Australia, and our role is really to fundraise. But in October last year, I went there, and
How exciting.
Tell us about
that was life-changing, yeah. To see these girls, when you think about what our children have, to see these girls just with the little they have, how grateful they are. and how little that is for us to make that happen for them. Like, we're talking about $1,000 a year for them to go to school. And that means boarding school with a uniform, books, 2 meals a day, and, you know, safety and education. And you talk to them and they say, you know, they're in the deepest, remotest part of Africa with nothing, and they say, like, I have a dream for my future.
Oh,
you know,
wonderful,
I want to be somebody. So as women, it's like, I think it's like the absolute core that we could, you know, support our sisters. These girls have come back from like the atrocities of civil war. Alice just gathered them under a tree, and initially she just offered them trauma counselling because she had a social work degree. And then that led to offering them maternal health because some of them were heavily pregnant and just needed to give birth safely, led to educating them. And now she has 3 schools, 2 maternal health clinics, 2 guest houses. Gosh, it was such a privilege to go there and see the work. And I took my lovely husband with me because I thought, you know what, I don't want to do this alone.
No, good girl.
And he just
He
got
understood
completely
it.
converted. And now he's researching, he's an engineer, so he's researching into like solar power and internet and to get the computers for them, because at the moment they're still learning out of
You
books.
are really
Yeah.
changing lives,
Yeah.
and talk about making a difference.
Go, Jane.
And look,
Well,
you know, my
well-
parents were giving people. They taught me to give. They, you know, my father would say, the more you have, the more you want.
Yes.
You know, and you can't look at other people and say,
The
look,
more you have, the more you
you know,
want.
if that guy over there, he's got all that money, he should be giving that to the poor. But it's all relative.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
it
all
is very-
relative.
I agree. One thing I love about doing this podcast is people that are giving back to society, giving back to communities. And honestly, I see so many spokes of the wheel with you, Jane. And lastly, if you had a choice of anyone in the world to meet over the back fence, anybody in the world, who would that be and why would that
I'm
be?
going to make you cry when I say this, because, I mean, I'll probably make myself cry, but, you know, years ago I would have chosen a celebrity, but 2 years ago I lost my mum.
Jane.
Bless
And
you,
I lost
bless
my dad when I was 20. So if I could have anyone living over the back fence from me right now, it would be my parents.
Wow, how beautiful.
How beautiful.
To glean from everything that they have taught me and could teach me.
Oh,
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
No,
but that's...
no, I know.
Tissues are over
Listen,
there.
tissues
I know.
And I'll tell you what, Jane, they would be so proud of you.
yeah,
And the legacy
yeah.
you're living, like the legacy that they
Yeah.
gave you,
So
that
true.
gift,
Yeah.
and your dad's
Yeah.
attitude and your
So
mum.
Yeah.
And then you're living it.
Yeah.
And then you're
Yeah.
sharing it through your children and then
Yeah.
to everyone else.
spirits
And it's going
around you.
and
Yeah.
it's going globally.
It's going
too.
global.
From Uganda.
That's true.
So that's
Yeah,
so
the podcast.
yeah.
Watching, guaranteed,
Wow. I'm
energetically
saying
they're
that too,
around
just
you.
with another
Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
then, Jane, and that does sort of touch out. We were
I've got to
very
get a
close with
t-
that. You get the
You
tissue.
ask
Mother
the
hen
next
that one. Turning back the clock, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Yes.
You've lived this long on planet Earth, and we're
Yeah.
still learning.
Yeah.
But what would
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
right
thank you,
now, if you
darling.
had any advice to give the 20-year-old Jane, what would it be?
It would be really simple. It would be just one day at a time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we need to not worry about tomorrow so much. You know, tomorrow will come, but every day has highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone said, like every 24 hours has increments of trouble in it. But one day at a time. Most of the stuff we worry about never happens.
Oh,
So
Jane.
I would just say to myself, one day at a time.
Oh, that's just
Yeah.
gold,
Love it.
isn't
And
it?
that's the essence of that is being present.
Yes, moments.
Yeah, in that moment,
Yeah.
appreciating
Yeah.
where you are right
Yeah.
now, like I am with Nicola and you.
Yeah,
being
we
present.
are. We're here.
Well, I
Not-
tell you what,
What a
this
joy.
moment today
What a
has
joy.
been one of the best moments I've had for a long time. Seriously, sharing it with
incredible,
you,
Jane.
and I'm so glad
And
we
we
can
met
share
you
it
through
with
bloody
everyone else.
golf. Thank
you.
And I think
Jane,
you
we
know
love
it.
you.
We do. We love
Thank you
you.
for coming
Thank you,
today.
Thank you, ladies.
Oh,
It's been
yeah, it's just
fabulous.
been joyous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jane.
Well, next Monday,
Can't wait.
we can't wait to have everyone on board one more time to Over the Back Fence.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody, and don't forget to rate and review. And how many stars, Dodie?
This week, why not 10 out of 5?
10 out of 5. Okay, I reckon reach for the stars. But thanks for listening, and don't
And
forget
follow
to follow.
us.
Yeah.
That's so important. If you love the podcast, follow. Really appreciate it and look forward to chatting with you soon.